the humans dare the demons to dry up their holy lake. Anos takes them up on their bet and uses a giant fireball to vaporize the entire Lake Diego. Gets very upset as their advantage is gone, the human students. However, don't mind as they have a plan B as the second round begins. The humans tell Diego not to worry and that they'll use their plan B to their advantage. It's a bright afternoon with both humans and demons preparing for their great exam. Anos and his team quickly form a guy spell. However, the humans use ass spells to form a magic training barrier before the fight fully begins. A weird voice keeps speaking to the humans and telling them to destroy the demons. At first, Anos sends a huge fireball to the humans, only for it to get destroyed by Zishia, the mute and powerful fourth reincarnate of canine Anos. Asks his people for any plans to bring down the barrier. Misha tells him she can create a magic castle inside the barrier to shield the demons from the effects of the barrier. All she needs is 3 minutes. So Anos teleports himself and her inside the barrier, while Misha builds her castle. Anos faces all the human students. The students try attacking Misha, but Anos stops them in their tracks. After the usual anime chit-chatter, things get serious. Anos shows the humans an inch of his prowess and they get blown away. Eventually, they all get back up fully healed. But now they face the entire demon team. Sasha faces Laos, and Lei faces the scrawny, annoying dude with blonde hair. Sasha uses Lao's school badge to defeat him in the last match. The demons found out the humans used Lao's school badge to hide the holy water they were pumping into the lake, having retrieved the badge. Sasha infuses some demon poison spell in it and allows Laos to have it. The poison reacts at the right time and leaves Laos immobile and vulnerable. Sasha shows in hell with her demon destruction ice. Meanwhile, a scrawny blonde dude summons his 2 swords and makes fun of Lei for being handicapped. With just 1 sword, Lei keeps calm and slices one of his arms off. Then he picks up the dude's holy sword and uses it to stigmatize the blonde serves him right. Though back at Oz's side, he faces Lent, Riano, and Zishia. Anos tries to figure out the true motives of the humans in this exam since they've been cheating in all the rounds. This involves him having to attack and defend himself from the deal when they're down. Legriano and Zeshia suddenly receive tremendous magic power from the people outside. The lake turns out that 10 million citizens of Claridite are willing to grant their mana to their heroes, now that they're several times stronger. The dude charged toward Anos, however, gets his own magic boost he uses. Asks, which is the magic spell humans use to transfer their magic to get some magical powers from the 8 ladies in Mises Unitarian Club. The humans cannot believe their eyes as Anos defeats them without moving an inch. Ledriano asks Anos how that's possible. Anos tells him it doesn't matter how many people are involved as long as he can channel the emotions. Well, just then, the voices in the heads of the humans become so loud, even the demons can hear it. Zishia still charges Anos to kill him. She tries to self-destruct yourself in order to bomb Anos to extinction. However, this doesn't work. Anos takes out the explosive thing in her chest. Just as he's about to finish off Zishia, he hears Eleanor's voice begging him to come to the shrine of the humans. Anos sends Misha to the shrine. There she meets the head of the human elite force, Diego Cannon. Out of his hatred for humans, Diego pins Misha down and stabs her continuously. Thankfully, Anos arrives just in time to take him and heal Misha. When Mish is fully healed, Anos kills and resurrects Diego and asks him why he's using his students for his evil gain. Diego gets very boisterous and Anos changes him to a demon. Diego still uses his demon powers to turn his students into zombies. Anos gets very upset and rips out his source from his chest. Then he destroys the source and sends Diego to the underworld forever after calling him a disgrace to the hero Kanan. In the next scene, Thanos carries Misha to the shrine and finds Alien are suspended in a magic ball. Eleanor explains to Anos that she was created with a taboo magic spell that changes humans into magic Anos figures out that she was the one healing and feeding the human students. Magic back in the arena, he tells her about the revived spell he put on the students that could explode their sources. Anytime soon, Eleanor tells Anos to leave that to her, as that's her specialty. Anos frees her from her bubble and clothes her. Helena then uses her magic to undo the source, destructive magic, and revive the students. After that's done, Anos and Eliana get to discuss the secrets behind the Human Hero Academy. Eleanor tells Anos that her job as a source of magic is to clone humans, so they can't ever die. Anos gets very disgusted and asks her when it all began. Eleanor tells them it happened a long time ago, when Commander Jurga was scared of peace reigning and humans forgetting their hatred for the demons to keep the hatred he made sure to eliminate all standing in his way, including the great hero Conan, and then researching clone magic so he could keep creating reincarnates of himself. And the hero Conan, he also tainted history to make the human descendants believe that demons are all evil beings. Aliana also mentions that although he could resurrect himself, Hirokana never did due to his tiredness of the human race. Eleanor says she's been waiting for someone like him to appear and finally bring peace to the human race. Once she's done with her story, Aliana asks Anos to destroy her for her sins. Once these clones get to life, they'd never forgive her. As they talk, some of the clones wake up and beg Anos to keep their mama alive. Just then, Diego's ringleader comes in to seize Alienor. Unfortunately for them, they're stopped in their tracks when the fake demon king of tyranny Avo, still Hevia, arrives with the 3 other 7 elder demon emperors, still under his control. Avos draws Canon's sword and shocks the humans who try to attack him. Of course, their attacks are futile. He takes care of the flies and faces Anos Boldigold. The real demon king, Thanos, asks him what his intentions are. Avos tells him he's there to bring back the Dark Ages when humans and demons were enemies. A few days later, both Avos and the human make a broadcast to the citizens of their respective cities, informing them of the war that's about to befall the land of both humans and demons. Anos gets back to Dilhade and arranges a meeting with his elders, Ivas Melhes and the likes. They tell them that the demon army is already making its way towards Glariodite. Anos knows he can't let them get to the city, or else the war will begin. So he rallies his team members and gives them some instructions. After the meeting, Lei meets with his lover Misa, who's very worried about him, and the team Lei promises her they get back in one piece the next day. Anos and his team set out to stop the demon army from reaching the human army. Misha and Sasha are to stop the troops attacking from the west. The twin sisters get right to their jobs and neutralize Ava's army. Meanwhile, Lei and Misa demolish troops attacking from the east. They also get to do their jobs without incurring injuries. However, formidable reinforcements attack Lei and Misa, but they put up a good fight. Anos and his elders would make sure to subdue Avos, and the remaining elders, they get right to it and attack Avos' castle as Anos preps to enter the castle. Misa calls on him to tell him she can't find Lei anywhere. Anos leaves that to his elders and faces the counterfeit Demon King, now standing face to face with each other in a black barrier. Anos recognizes the counterfeit Demon King as the hero, Canon's true reincarnate Lei. Now I understand how I was able to wield the great hero's sword earlier on. Turns out Lei has been the hero's true incarnate all along. Anos asks him how and why he's posing as the Demon King. Lei tells him his origin story after getting betrayed and murdered by Jurga, and his men. Canon finds out they set a plan to destroy Anos 2,000 years later. So he had to stop them. To do this, he took his holy sword and tampered with history to erase every memory of the real Demon King. He then tells Anos that he's been planning to restore world peace between both beings ever since. To do this, he had to reincarnate and conceal himself just so that he could meet with his longtime friend Anos and exterminate him in front of the humans. Canon thinks the humans would stop hating on the demons once they see the great Anos go down and out forever. Anos reasons with this logic and decides to fight Canon for all it's worth, so he can make his wish come true. Almost instantly, the fight between the hero and the demon begins, being a human with 7 sources. Anos means to take out Kanan's 7 sources one by one until he's taken out all 7 sources and then saves his friend from his burden. All his attacks are aimed at Kin chest region. Lei also gives the fight. His very best, but Anos was too strong for him. Anos uses the Geo Grace to take out 6 of his 7 sources and leaves 1 in Lei. Anos tells Lei to back down now, or risk dying forever. However, Lei keeps fighting. He summons a sword and charges at Anos, hoping to destroy him in one final swoop. Anos smiles at Kanan's or Lei's courage and allows him to land a fatal hit on his source. Then he releases the black barrier and allows everyone, humans and demons alike, to witness him dying by Lei's sword. Before passing on, Anos tells all forces to retreat and wait for him to be resurrected one day, at least. Now both humans and demons can know true world peace as he watches his dear friend die. Kanan acknowledges Anos' strength and lifts the holy sword high in the sky. Then he orders the human army to put down their swords in retreat. The demons prepare to retreat. However, Diego refused, is to let down, and lets Jirga's spirit of hatred control his body. He lets out a terrifying scream and unleashes a massive Ask magic spell. Jirga emerges from the Ask spell and faces his subordinates. Ibis immediately activates the Dynajix's origin spell on the 2 girls, Sasha and Misha. The girls answer their calling and merge into one powerful goddess who fights Jirga to keep him at bay. Jirga spots the massive number of Zekia clones on the ground and begins activating them to self-destruct mode. Sasha and Misha try their best to prevent him from detonating all 10,000 clones of Zekia, but it's too late. Or is it just as the spirits are about to go off? Anos resurrects himself and gets back to the real world in time. He stops the detonation from happening and faces his real enemy. Jirga asks him how he was revived without his source magic, but Anos explains that he used aggremat magic to get it done. Jirga gets the point but still attacks him. This time he borrows power from the human soldiers and relinquishes their hope. Lei joins Anos to work together to bring down the devil himself. Jirga keeps his standing as he uses the power he borrowed to attack both Anos and Lei. Anos decides to borrow some power from his own team as well. He asks the Unitarian team to sing and borrow him their own power. Misa directs her team to sing a beautiful melody and invigorate their demon king. Jirga still refuses to back down the demon army. Also joined hands to lend their demon king their power as the fight goes on. Anos and Lei get much stronger than ever. They conjure a magic spell that makes Jirga self-destruct. Then Anos summons his castle Delsgate and makes one final attack alongside Lei together. Both Lei and Anos lay waste to the corrupt spirit of Jirga. Once it's all over the world, goes back to an even more peaceful state than before. Lei gets to meet his love, Misa again. Anos turns Eleanor into his own magic, so she would never be taken advantage of again in the ending scene. Thanos returns to his hometown with Elena and his team, the Great Spirit Forest of Aharthurn. Led by the Great Spirit goddess Lino, was visited by the Heavenly Father of all gods. Knows Galia Lino asked him about his mission there, and news tells her he wants to impregnate her with the famed child of God. He then restrains her in preparation for the ritual. However, he stopped by Anos, the Demon King, at the time who appears with Shin, his right-hand man. After dispelling, knows Anos turns to Lino and assigns Shin to guard her on her journey to Delzo Gate. Lino appreciates the help and reluctantly allows Shin to follow her around. She begins her journey out of the Great Spirit Forest, all the way to Delzo Guide, with Shin as her bodyguard. Up next, Anos meets up with Kanan and has his famous last moments with the human hero following their discussion. Kanan runs his sword through Anos and kills him. Shin and Leno return to the Spirit Forest. After visiting Delzagade, they find the entire forest covered in black magic, with beasts roaming every inch of it. The spirits report the danger to their master, and a weird-looking boy named Anoshu. Poltical reveals himself to Shin and Lano back in the present era. Anos and his subordinates return to the Demon King Academy on a bright morning before class. The group finds Lei and his girlfriend Misa walking together and teasing them before getting to class before the class starts. test menu. Their substitute teacher introduces the new transfer students, Eleanor and Zethia. Then she shows the class their new permanent homeroom teacher, Ergo, made Didichan the noble students grumble over their new teacher being a lowly demon. However, Menu explains to them that Erdamate is a member of the evil royals and had commanded a forsaken to the great demon king several years ago. Menu gives Erdamate the stage to talk, and he gets right to the topic at hand. He exposes Anos Voldagoat as the true demon king and shocks the entire class. Naturally, the royal students refuse to accept this. Nonetheless, Ergomade makes them bow before Anos as he allows the true demon king to speak to them. Anos gets to face the class and tells them they can hate or like him, but he doesn't care as long as there's peace between Delhide and Esthesian. After his speech, Anos suspects that Erdomat has been possessed. He takes his seat and listens to what the teacher had to say. His suspicions are confirmed when Erdomades speak stuff only a true god would know when the time comes. He reveals himself as the heavenly father of all gods, Nos Galia, the royal spouts of nonsense and anger noose. He places chains on their necks and strangles them. Then he tells Anos about the child of God that would soon be awakened to destroy him. Anos orders him to release the students, but the god refuses. So he takes out his sword and stabs Erdomade. Erdomade releases the students in face. Is Anos releases him and orders him to keep teaching the class as if nothing happened after class. Anos meets with his team to tell them he needs to do something about this child of God before things run out of hand. Once the meeting's done, he transports himself to Melhiz to talk with him. Meanwhile, Alienor receives a call from Ladriano and her other human classmates about a weird Jervis spell. They found Misa meets with her lover Lay. They reassure themselves of their love and promise to protect each other, no matter what, and finds out someone was listening to them. Lay calls out the intruder, whose name is Jared, a messenger from Mesa's father, in order to bring her to the palace elsewhere. Sasha calls Anos, who's preparing for a welcome back party for himself, to tell him Manu has been captured. Anos gets to Melhiz Castle, only to find out he's been taken down by Zeke, Erdo maidservant apparently. Ergo Maid surrendered his body to be used by the gods, just so he could be used to create the child of God, Misa. And Lay follow Jurd underground to find a sword that's supposed to be Misa's. When they get there, Jira turns on them and stabs Miso with the sword elsewhere. Eleanor and Zetha find out their colleagues, Ledriano and the rest, have been poisoned by Zabro. Sasha and Misha also meet another one of the evil royal. Rinka Thorns. In the final scene, Thanos gets challenged by Zeke to a battle of wits. Zeke tells Anos to use his magical power to play the game. Failure to do so would mean the permanent death of Mel. Hyzanos agrees to his terms and sacrifices his magic powers to play Zeke's so-called Battle of Wits. If he wins the game, he'd get his magic powers back. Zeke explains the rules of the game to him, telling him he'd be guessing who the real child of God is amongst his subordinates. Anos has only 18 chances to choose the correct person and win the game. If he loses, his magic powers would cease for 5 seconds, giving Zeke more than enough time to kill him. The opposite is also true if Zeke wins the game. So it's free and fair. Also, Zeke is allowed to lie about one of Anos' answers, so things can be more interesting before they begin the game. Anos reduces his choice options to 9 and assures Zeke he makes sure to get the answers right before he makes 9 choices. Zeke accepts the deal and they seal things with a Zek contract. Lay and Misha both face Gerard, who's after Mesa's source. Lay asks him why he needs her source, and Jared tells him it's because Misa was born of Leno's source and had enough control over spirit magic. Just then, he summons his magic shield and wields it to fight against Lay. Sasha and Misha also find out they're wanted by the evil royals due to their spiritual connection to the gods. As the game begins, Anos thinks about his answers very carefully. He figures out that the child of God is Misa in another space. Lay keeps fighting. Jared and his cursed shield genius, which inflicts twice the day damage on the wielder's enemy. Jared uses the shield's powers to destroy Ley's sources. Zedro, on the other hand, keeps summoning ghouls to fight Eleanor and Zethia. He uses the spell Genoglenus to suck away the magic powers of both humans. Sasha and her sister used the Geograce to keep their enemy Rinka at bay. However, Rinka powers up her attacks and cuts both of them down elsewhere. Anos keeps thinking about who the true child of God could be. Normally, he'd have stopped the game right there after finding out that Misa is the child of God. However, since Zeke is allowed to tell one lie, then there's a possibility the child of God is someone else. Anos keeps on guessing and testing until he figures it out. Turns out Zeke had already implanted a fake memory in himself to trick himself into believing all his confirmations. To Anos' questions were correct. Once he's made, Zeke ends the match, seals Anos' powers, and attacks him. Anos uses brute force to stop his attacks, and then beats Zeke in his own game. As it turns out, Zeke killed the fake Milhys, and Anos was just putting an act all along after slashing Sasha down. Rinka turns her sword towards Misha and keeps slashing her. However, Misha stands back and summons Anos' Castle Delgado. Meanwhile, Ley activates his second source and comes back to life as the reincarnation of Canon. Ley summons his holy sword and gets serious with Girard. Eliana also fights back against Zero and takes him out. The same thing happens with Rinka and Ley as they get cut down by their respective enemies after defeating the evil royals. Eleanor revives all the ghouls Zebra summoned to fight them. Zig still cannot believe his eyes as the real Melhys appears before him. Anos explains to him that he used a womb of origination magic to bring Melhys' source back to life and hide him just in time before Zeke started their little battle of wits. Now that he's lost, Zeke executes himself. However, Anos reincarnates him as an owl and finds out his true intentions. Turns out he was sent there to reduce Anos' combat magic any way he could.